Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to be painting Eucalyptus, and this is the tutorial we painted together with my students on Patreon. So if you're new here, my name is Eucalyptus and I'm a botanical watercolor artist. So here on YouTube I'm sharing all the projects we paint together with my students, and this week I'm sharing with you Eucalyptus painting. This tutorial was actually painted last year before Christmas, but I finally got around and shared this with you. So you can see on the screen all the pigments that I used to mix up those beautiful greens. And the beautiful thing about this leaf is this slightly muted and grayish green, which has this very matte and minty color. And also it is the opposite of shiny leaf. It's very matte and it sort of has this bloom on the leaf. That's where that gray and blue tone comes through, and it has quite a bit of a texture, so it's not really smooth leaf. It has little tonal values constantly changing throughout the leaf. So that's what we want to capture, is that characteristic of eucalyptus, this bloom and that textured leaf. So if you notice, I tried to use the same pigments to mix majority of my greens, just in some of them I need to add perhaps an extra pigment or change the quantity of each pigment, and then using the same pigments you can mix up a wide variety of greens. So to start with, we're gonna start with underlay. So basically, because that leaf is, as I said, has this bloom and it's not shiny, so it does not have white highlights. So what we're gonna do is give this underlay of the lightest color that is showing throughout the leaves, and it's that minty bluish green color. So I'm not gonna paint with wet on wet as I usually do, because I want to give just a very flat layer all over the leaf. So I'm just painting straight on the paper with quite watery, very transparent and very light pigment. Normally I start most of the first layers with wet on wet, but because I want this underlayer to be just something that shows through all the main layers, doesn't really matter if it's a little bit uneven, so I can go ahead and straight on the paper without wetting. And if I use very diluted, very watery, I can create a fairly smooth layer without having too much watermarks. So keep it very watery and very light. So once you let your first layer dry, we're gonna start with the first main layer using wet on wet, and now we want to start creating a little bit of that texture and give that main color and start defining little by little the light and shadow, lighter, darker colors. So we're gonna focus mainly on that textured spotty pattern all over the leaf, and only later we can start applying some darker green colors that you can see. So what we start with, painting wet on wet, is give a nice water glaze, and now we're gonna paint every single leaf at a time. We're not gonna paint all together, so one leaf at a time, give a nice even glaze. So you want the water glaze glisten evenly, you want to be able to see the texture of the paper, and that's how you know you don't have too much water. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pick up my first color and I'm gonna dab all over the leaf, trying to create that spotty and even texture. Once I've applied my first color, I can add a little bit of the darker green in few areas that it requires. Again, painting in the same spotty and dabbing manner to try and create that texture feeling. Once we applied our all colors on our first leaf, what you want to do is clean your brush, take the water out and lift off from areas that need it, for example where the vein is, if that requires for that particular leaf, and then we're gonna leave it to dry. So one thing to know when you paint every single leaf at a time is to not paint right next to it right away. So you want the first leaf to have time to dry and leave it to dry, so you want to paint the one that doesn't touch the one that you just painted. So you jump from leaf to leaf, leaving a leaf in between, making sure you don't touch the settling one. So once we've done that, I go over again over the leaves, particularly that have darker color, and apply another layer in the same manner, but this time I'm picking up more greener and darker colors and try to enhance now the darker parts. So again, you go over all the leaves, building the tonal values and darkness and saturation of color, but now we're introducing also the darkest color. So now we're moving towards the end, and now we can paint in the stem. So I'm gonna clean up my palette, make a little bit of space, and we're gonna mix up some colors needed. So I can see lots of olivey, yellowy, green tones, and also a little bit of red. So I'm adding additional color into existing mixes to make it more suitable for the stem, and adding some additional colors like red. Very small area to paint, so I'm not wetting my paper before. I'm straight away picking up my lightest green color, and while that glaze is damp, I'm adding some additional darker and red pigments, and that first very light green color works as a water glaze, but it already comes with a color, so it's really good for the smaller areas. And last but not least, veins and the edges around the leaves. So that's what really gonna enhance our painting and put in that last detail. So we want to apply very fine, very light veins all over the leaves where needed and necessary, and those dark red edges around each individual leaf. And that will be it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and if you would like to follow step by step and paint together with me, then you can join our Patreon community, where you can find a full length tutorial where I guide you through every single step and we can paint together. Other than that, I'll see you in our future videos, and if you like, thumbs up and subscribe. I'll see you. Bye bye.